You're listening to Errol Parker and Clancy Overall, editors of the Batuta Advocate, on Desert Rock FM. Well, welcome back to the Batuta Advocate radio show. We are joined today for the first time in a while by a Nationals politician. Actually, it's pretty much only the Nats that talk to us nowadays. The last one was McCormack. Probably before that it was
David Littleproud.
David Littleproud out at the races.
Our local member.
Out at the races, but I don't think he meant to talk to us. He was just there, and so were we, and we had a camera on him. But today we are joined by the Deputy Premier of New South Wales, John Barilaro. How are you, mate?
I'm effing good.
Effing good? Effing good. Well, it is a Batuta Advocate podcast. It's not question time, so feel free to let the F-bombs fly today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But I had to apologise in the House today, and a couple of my colleagues called me a soft cock at the end of it. So
Really?
there you go. Yeah, they said you shouldn't have apologised, but
Yeah. Things are heating up.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a team player, mate. I took it for the team.
Yeah. Now, you also referred to the Leader of the Opposition as a racist, which was an exciting comment. I guess they recoiled a little bit. What was your thinking behind that comment? What was your basis?
Oh, well, during the election campaign, didn't he shoot himself in the foot with that Asians with PhDs comment? So in line with Luke Foley before that mentioned white flight, I think it runs in the DNA. But when you really look at it, and I'm a bit surprised now, and I probably shouldn't have called him a racist. If you look at what's happening at ICAC, they seem to be very close to the Chinese, especially their cash.
It's a double-sided sword there. Now, we will talk a little bit about your background prior to politics and you know where you grew up, because, and this is no fault of yours or the media's, I guess, like tends to be the case nowadays that most Australians have switched out of state politics. There's a detachment, mainly because of, as you just mentioned, 3 decades of cabinet ministers being dragged in front of ICAC. People have kind of lost faith. So what's your story, mate? Where you Queanbeyan born?
Yep, born and bred Queanbeyan, and I grew up, played hard, lived hard, got into a bit of mischief, got kicked out of Queanbeyan High School, ended up at St Eddie's for the final 2 years of my life because my parents thought St Eddie's a good Catholic upbringing, a good school across the border would fix it. But I think I smoked more weed, got up to more mischief at Eddie's than I did in Queanbeyan. But
you did inhale.
Oh, we know what's happening. Well, it's all legal there now.
Well,
so
yeah.
we were just ahead of our time.
I think those cops down there in Queanbeyan now are going to be having quite a bit more on.
Oh, I think so.
I think there's going to be a lot more. Yeah.
I think we've all just got to get fake licences and say we've all come from the ACT, even though you might get caught in Queanbeyan. But I tell you something, in the day at St Eddie's, year 11 and 12 student, you could actually smoke at school. Yeah. And I remember the only reason they banned it wasn't because smoking was bad for your health. The couch in the common room, which was a black vinyl couch, it got lit up. I nearly said we lit it up, but I wasn't involved. But look, I'm born and bred, ended up going to uni, dropped out of uni to want to be an accountant, went off to join my old man in the joinery shop, did a trade. And over time I just loved what I did as a tradie and built the business up and built a decent business in the region. So I've always worked for myself, never taken a pay pack from anyone. I've done it all for myself, except when I got elected in 2011. And I said to someone, the only reason I threw my hand up to run and get some of my money back was some of those taxes that I paid over time. But I'm a straight shooter, love what I do, and I'm going to keep fighting.
Now, you Italian family there in Queanbeyan,
Yep.
And you're not just a kind of Albanese, Bernardi Italian. You've actually got an anglicised name, Giovanni.
That's it. I'm the real McCoy, mate. Giovanni Domenico Barilaro, if you want to say it the Wog way. Yeah, look, my parents moved to Australia in 65 and straight to Queanbeyan, and they've always called Queanbeyan home. But Dad's one of 10, Mum one of 6. We've only got about 3 uncles and aunties here, and a lot of them still overseas. And when we say Italian, mate, we're real Italians. We're not the blue-eye blondes from the north. We're the Calabrese, mate. Mafia country. So it's all good.
Now, tell us a little bit about being the first Italian leader of the National Party in New South Wales. Are you the only Italian, or I guess in the coalition government for New South Wales, it is a bit ethnic, actually, between you and Gladys. But in the Nats, would you be the first kind of Italian bushy?
Yeah, look, we had Adrian Piccoli. Remember that? He was the member for Murray. But like I said, he's Northern Italian. He's almost Austrian. We don't really count him in. Unless you've got dark hair like I do, you're not Italian. But yeah, look, I never thought that someone with my surname, not blonde hair and blue eyes, would be the leader of the New South Wales Nationals. But I've got a whole heap of mates from all backgrounds, especially Italians and Greeks and Macedonians, and they always thought the Nats were a racist party just for whites, And I think I broke that mould. But look, I love what I do, and it's a party that I think just shows you if you work hard, and we represent everybody everywhere. We're not driven by ideology. It's geography, mate. It's where we come from.
Well, once they let the Catholics in, it was kind of anyone's, right?
Yeah, mate. I tell you what, over the last few weeks, some of us wish the Catholics weren't up in Parliament with the whole abortion debate. So who knows, mate? Because that's been one hell of a ride. Let me put it that way.
Hopefully now, for the people in New South Wales, you'll be able to get back to the job of governing the country,
mate. I want to get back to killing frogs, mate. Building dams.
Yep.
And when I say killing frogs, I don't mean the Frenchmen. So I just want to make that absolutely clear. I don't want to upset anybody.
Unless it's in the World Cup quarterfinal, I guess.
Well, don't forget, I'm Italian and I hate Zidane, especially what happened in that World Cup with the headbutt with Materazzi. So,
Well, you haven't let your love of dams be shy, John. Where would you build them? I mean, there's a lot of dams in New We've a lot of rivers.
Yep.
Where would you build them?
Wherever I can kill the most frogs.
Yeah.
No. Look, we've got a plan. Sorry about that.
Yep.
We've got a plan, and
we don't care. What else you want to kill?
Mate. Well, I always joke because I came out and said, look, if a few frogs have to die, so be it. But then I thought to myself, but if you build dams, isn't that more water and more opportunities for frogs?
Yeah.
So I probably that line was wrong. But look, there are a number of dams we can build. One in Dungowan Dam up at Tamworth. We know they can get out of the ground quickly. Moles River Dam up on the Queensland New South Wales border. You raise the dam wall at Wyangla, 650 gigs is equivalent to another dam. And the other thing we should be doing is stuff underground, like underground dams. Recharging aquifers. We've got a plan. We're ready to go. We've pitched it to the feds and. Good to see their response in the media. They didn't tell us about it, but they announced it to the media. They're happy to back a few of our dams, and that's good. But the thing we've still got to get through is the red tape and green tape.
Yeah.
Let me be absolutely honest. Everyone says, "But John, you're the deputy premier. You're in charge." Bullshit. The bureaucrats are in charge, and they'll do everything they want to do to stop something like dam building. So that's a challenge for us, but we'll get on with it, and we can do it.
Do you think regardless of rain, this kind of job you've got? Do you reckon New South Wales is drought proof? Top to bottom?
No way.
No
way in the world. And we're not drought proof. We're resilient in the bush. Let's be honest. We're resilient. We'll take dry spells. We've always done it, and it'll always rain. But this particular run is hard.
Yeah.
For some areas, 2, 3, 4 years in drought, no water at all. We're in sinking bores in places like Tenterfield, and we can't even find water. So this is harder than ever before, and this is the reminder. And that maybe after the Millennium Drought, we didn't actually think about what we could do long term. So here we are, another drought. But if we miss this opportunity, that's why I'm bloody really, really putting my balls on the line here and saying, truncate process, get rid of environmental impact studies. In some cases, stop even engaging with the community. We know we've got to build these dams. Let's just get on with it. And that's the truth, mate. And that's what we've got to do.
So tell us a little bit about the kind of divide between the Nats and the on a state and federal level, because this has been something we've seen since January. Barnaby claimed that he didn't want it. The state wanted it. It just feels like there's another layer outside of the tape you're just talking about. It feels like there's another, ceiling above you, on a state level.
Look, let me put it this way: when you're facing an election and everyone's desperate to win their seats, I tell you what, the states will blame the feds will blame the state, the Nats will blame each other, and do whatever you can to survive. And I think there's been a little bit of that. The reality is the Nats are best when we're actually united. And truthfully, you're not going to get a better retail politician than Barnaby. He did that for a long time, really, really well. And we actually looked to Barnaby to lead the charge. That's probably been detrimental a bit to the Nats brand, because a lot of us, and we got accused during the election campaign, and I was probably just as guilty. The Nats logos were either in 4-point fonts or non-existent. I think the member for Bathurst Tully, mate, you couldn't tell he was a Nats because I think he even changed the colours. So the truth is, it's over time, the Nats brand is probably diminished, and it's the individual. Someone with the charisma or character like Barnaby takes over. And so I think there's never been a time like now where I feel that for the Nationals, we just feel like a collection of independents. Have come together under a brand, but we don't push the brand.
Did you have to make that? Was that a concerted effort? Because there was something a lot like independents coming to get for your seats.
Yeah, I think after we were chasing our third term. And normally, second-term Nats or the coalition governments in Sydney or New South Wales get thrown out. So in one way, we had to be a little bit Trump-like, where you're anti the establishment, and the Nats do this really well. We can stand there and jump up and down, because when we like it, we love being part of the coalition. When we hate it, we blame them. So we did a bit of that. But our threat, the shooters, they were a real threat. Some of the independents, and the drought didn't help either. When you got a community running out of water, you got the fish kills and all that, anxiety and all of that sort of stuff. You blame the establishment, and we were there. So a lot of our MPs get over the line. I'm probably no different in the Monero. Queanbeyan, for instance, is a Labor town, and the truth is, I pushed my brand over the Nats brand, but people like me because I'm, as I said, a former tradie at Chippy. A lot of people think I should have been a Labor MP, not a Nat.
Yeah.
So do you think a lot of the result at the last election for the Nats in New South Wales, was that more of a backlash against the brand of the Nats, or more or less a backlash against the policies which had ended up in these communities out of water, out of services?
Well, add two more, greyhounds in local councils.
Yeah. Greyhounds, that was what I was going to ask you. What was your thoughts off the bat with that policy? Because that was Mike's...
it was a captain's
that was his
call
GST kind of Henson moment, wasn't it?
Look, I recall a conversation with then the leader of the Nats, Troy. We were in WA for something, I can't remember what it was, and we were over a few tins. He said to me, I've got a report that talks about the greyhound industry, few problems, either shut it down or fix it. And we left it at that. We're going to fix it, and then get the cabinet, and we shut it down. Now I was in that cabinet. I had what I had to say, but I came out of cabinet solid and just backed in the policy. But geez, we got it wrong. We absolutely got it wrong. Mike said we got it wrong. We lost Orange. Because we lost Orange, we lost Troy as leader. I became leader off the back of that, mate. We absolutely got that completely wrong. When you take on the battler, and that's what it was. People can say, there's only 2,000 jobs or whatever. Mate, you took on the battler, everyone backed in the battler, and that's a reminder that politicians have got to stop, pretending that we know everything we don't. And we got it wrong. We effed that up like you don't believe. But same as mergers, local council mergers. Yeah. We went and sacked councils. And when I say we went and sacked councils to merge them, you're talking about the local butcher or the local footy coach.
Walker got to stay. Walker was all right.
You can thank Barnaby for that one. We'll talk about this fit for the future process, but I tell you what, there was not the process was thrown out the window, and a whole heap of decisions were made, and Barnaby blew it up, and good luck to Barnaby. Walker remained, and good for Walker, isn't it?
Same thing happened when they did it in Queensland, and they started kind of amalgamating, and then they get to about Longreach, and they go, No, this is getting too vast now. So Birdsville got to keep their 12 blokes and one road gang, and Birdsville Council remains.
People hate their council. Honestly, as a local MP, state MP, I get all these letters all the time. Sack the council, hate the council, the council this, the footpath here, and all that. But then, when we went to sack the councils and do the mergers, they turned on us. And it just reminds me, I think it's like this, you might want to kick your dog. You're entitled to kick your dog, but if someone else kicks your dog, you're going to kick them. Yeah. So it's the same thing here. We got it wrong. We made a mess of it, and we just misjudged, especially in the bush. Yeah. Your councillor, the mayor of a town, is known. They can knock on the door. They wouldn't have any idea who the state MP, the federal MP, or who the Premier or the Prime Minister in most cases. Yeah. They talk to their mayor. Guess what? And we sack their mayor.
Yeah.
That's crap.
But they would know who would be in charge of ICAC, because every small town mayor has had a door knock from ICAC.
Well, let's
and
not
they
go
invariably,
there.
they invariably find nothing. But
I often say, I don't want to really talk about ICAC. Thank God my daughter's doing law. I may need it one day.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that, eh?
Yeah.
The only difference is, everyone just looks at me. Here's Calabrese, Italian, dark hair. Probably looks shonky.
Yeah.
But the truth is, when you look shonky, you're probably the most honest, and the guy that looks honest is probably the one that's doing the deal behind your back. See
that in the libs a lot. A lot of the kind of the haircuts and the libs tend to get in the most trouble.
Oh mate, those libs they go to the same barber, they go to the same suit shop, and they always buy a suit, I reckon, 2 sizes too small, and they all look the same. But we've been a little bit lucky. We haven't had any Nat had to head down to ICAC, a few libs. Now the Labor Party are enjoying their time down there.
But
the Nat should be safe so long as they don't introduce a federal ICAC.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Let's not go there, eh? Let's not go there.
I'm interested to know what the mood was in the National Party room when the lockout laws were coming through. I mean, it's a law that doesn't really affect anyone who votes for the Nationals. It only really affected a group of people who would only really exist within a 5-mile radius of the Harbour Bridge. You know,
yes and no.
The Orange Hotel's still open till 4 a.m.
No, well, the lockout laws for Sydney, and let's talk about King's Cross first, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, most of us on your 18th birthday from the bush come to Sydney, and guess where we all end up? At those strip joints at King's Cross, right? So it was almost this rite of passage was the cross. Well, the cross doesn't look like the place we grew up with. So the lockout laws in Sydney, they went too far. There's no doubt, and I've been vocal about that. We got it wrong. The impact in the bush was around takeaways. You know, you couldn't takeaways after 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock.
10,
I can't remember. Your lockouts at 12. But the truth is, in the bush, we've always had local liquor accords where the local publican with the local cops have come to an agreement in the past and said, you know what, we're going to shut down at 12, we'll lock people out. We've probably had that in the system for 20 years.
They do it every New Year's Eve, you know.
Anzac Day, mate, my Walsh's pub in Queanbeyan, mate, come Anzac Day, comes, 6:30, mate, they're pushing us out the door because most of us have been there from dawn, right, and they're pushing us out the door. So, most publicans are responsible. They know how to do this. Look, there was an incident in Sydney and, it was a terrible incident, but it's typical of government, we overreact.
Yeah.
It's like when someone says, we want regulation. My advice to anybody, any industry, don't ask for regulation from government because we will overreact and will kill things off. That's what happened with greyhounds. Yeah. That's what's happened with even the taxi industry. We've regulated the shit out of the taxi industry and they weren't able to compete with Uber when that hit the market. So, but look, it has an impact. There's a decision to be made shortly. I reckon we'll release and relax some of the lockout laws, both city, bush, and I think that's a good thing.
Do you find that there's red tape for some and not for others? For example, there's been a few investigative programs on the ABC regarding buildings that might have been built a bit too quickly.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I've come out of the building industry, and it's probably some of my relatives. So I just got to be very careful what I say here. But there are buildings in this city. There are buildings in this country that have used a whole heap of imported materials where there's been shonky certification, and now after the fact you find out it's not fit for purpose, like the cladding. So these things could catch on fire. We've moved away from heavy construction to lightweight construction. That's a good thing in one way; it keeps costs down. But I'm not sure if a lot of the tradies out there actually understand the materials, and therefore you might end up with some adverse outcomes. But we've got some problems. But in the scheme of things, you've got Mascot Towers, you've got the Opal. The reality is, in the scheme of things, that's still a very small number of buildings that have got problems compared to what's been built in this city for the last 10 years.
Yeah. But do you find that say a pub owner in the back of Botany would get more eyeballs on them on a Saturday night than a construction site would get in the space of 6 months?
Sorry, that was the point. Yeah, absolutely. More red tape for some than others, depending on what industry. The small guy always cops it in the arse, and everybody else gets away with it because the big end of town, they pay certifiers and legals to act on their behalf, fight for them. No, that's actually a very valid point. That red tape is a real issue, but it's easy for bureaucrats to pick on the small guy, and I reckon it happens. You're right. That's a good point.
Would you view Malcolm Turnbull as a bureaucrat?
I've said a lot about him. Haven't I said a lot about Malcolm Turnbull in the past, mate?
Yeah. Christmas gift was one particular one. Turnbull was a Christmas gift to Australians. But you guys butted heads. I guess there's no bad blood anymore because he's long gone. But.
Yeah, well, I won, he lost, but
he's a farmer himself. He's got 10, 20,000 acres up the Hunter. He has a couple of cows up there. He's a farmer himself, and he is also doing it tough. So I think that's some of the policy that you would be coming up with as the leader of the New South Wales Nats would be impacting on him. Well.
Yeah, I worry about those guys that have bought farms for a tax write-off. They're the ones that. Yeah. I'm at the moment not sleeping at night for. Joe Blow, the small farmer around the corner who's doing it tough. We'll get to him eventually. But geez, it's the big end of town that have bought farms, probably for a carbon offset or something. Radical like that to look after some threatened species. But let's say I've said my piece about Malcolm in the past. I was just about 9 months too early. Got there eventually. It was an Easter gift to me, not a Christmas one.
You kind of split a room a bit with the Libs too. There's from both sides of the factions within the Libs, within the federal Libs. Is this something that people can expect to see more from you? And it might not be a bad thing, just button heads wherever you see fit.
Yeah, I think the difference now is, not many would know this, but we butt heads a lot, but we do it behind closed doors. And, you know, I like Gladys, so we've been doing it behind closed doors and we keep it quiet and we get our wins. But what has happened, I don't think we get recognised for those wins. So, you know what, I decided this time around, no, let's have those fights publicly. But we're going to disagree on a number of things. We have a very different view. We're agrarian socialists, mate, and they're free marketeers. They think the market will fix everything. Well, we've seen how the market has screwed a lot of things. Have a look at the water trading that's hurting us at the moment. So, well, but you'll see more of it. And, you know, I drew a line in the sand at Inverell at our conference when I said enough's enough and I'm going to speak out. And there's certain things we're not going to cop anymore. And I reckon that's a fair go, because our base, our voters, our communities need to know, hang on, those blokes at Macquarie Street that pretend to be country folk or, you know, wear their polished RMs, actually do get what we get us, and they are fighting for us. And I'm always happy to go get a blood nose. I may not win every fight, but I'm happy to get a blood nose over it.
Well, just touching on the issue of trading water, you know, as the old adage goes, the more money you have, the more problems you have. If we do build all these dams and we do get all of this water, do you think that the issues around water security and water trading will become worse? Like if there's more of this commodity, it becomes less valuable.
Yep.
And if we have a lot of it, do you think there would be less regulation about where it goes and who it goes to?
No, mate, the way water's going, and we're in the middle of a drought, this might become a bit more of a norm. Like, get rid of your gold shares, your silver shares, mate. Water would be the commodity you want to hang on to.
Gorbachev said that on his final speech.
Well, there you go. And it's true. And I think as a country that is a dry continent, let's be honest, I think we're on record we're the second driest continent in the world, always have been and always will be.
After Antarctica.
And therefore, no, I think it's an area that we actually have to regulate a bit better.
Yeah.
We cannot allow what's happening in superannuation funds who are trading water like a commodity on the stock market. You know, water was designed, the irrigators are meant to do it to grow our food and fibre. And this is where, again, government gets it wrong.
Yep.
Yes, it's a property right for some. Every time governments get involved, this is the problem, every time governments get involved and there's money involved, everybody, those industry groups or those stakeholders will devise ways how to get more of that money. Remember pink bats?
Yeah.
You put a shitload of tax dollars on the table.
The
everybody became an installation expert.
The bikies took the Commonwealth for a ride there.
Well, that's what I mean. Well,
Yeah.
that's the point. So, and then there was the vet fee help. I don't know if you know that was the TAFE stuff where we said, here's a whole shitload of money, and if you want to train our kids, we're going to pay you all that money up front, and go for it. And we lost billions of dollars.
Yeah.
We're going to have all these dodgy providers, a lot of them from overseas, who are now driving Mercs and made millions of dollars with no outcome. So governments always F this stuff up because we think we're the experts. The bureaucrats pretend they know what they're doing, but the truth is they've never lived a real day in the life. And any expert, any entrepreneur, any businessman, and remember, I'm a former businessman and I'm a WOG. I know how to work my way through to get my hands on that cash. And that's what happens all the time. So water, in my mind, that's exactly what's happened. We will have to regulate it. Yeah, we need to use water in a different way. We've got to become more efficient, store more, collect more. But geez, we've got to take control of it.
Do you think it would be more effective to govern this on a state level or a national level?
Well, we tried a national level with the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, built on false foundations. It clearly shows it's a crock of shit because, you know, we've got no water entitlements. Those in the southern basin are watching that water go past their front gates. It ends up in South Australia, and those wankers down there are on their yachts and having their regattas. So it's a failure in the system. So as a state, I've just said this, man, I'm now waving the flag for Team New South Wales.
Yeah.
And if we've got to walk away from the plan, we will. If not, work with us. We're more than happy to contribute, but we've been paying more for water than anyone else and giving more to the environment. South Australia's not missing out. Victoria's only partly hurt. Well, Queensland, well, I'm not even going to talk about them.
A fair bit of the water ends up in the K Islands as well.
Yeah, or the value anyway of the water. So that's the truth.
Well, just on that, there's a small community down there on the convergence of the Murray and the Darling called Wentworth, and they haven't seen a flow come down the Darling now for almost a decade. In saying that, you know, if that water does go in to the Murray and it goes on 100 odd Ks and then it's down into South Australia, if the water never flows into the Murray again out of the Darling and it's all put to good use, is that a good thing?
Well, firstly, you can't. Wentworth, great little place. Know the mayor there. She's a great mayor. And that's why we dubbed her Winks, the great mare, Winks. And she loves the name, so she enjoys it. And I've been down to Wentworth a few times, and they're doing it tough, you're right. They're absolutely doing it tough. But the truth is, if you look at what we've done, we know that for a while with water in this state, we never let the water run down. And the environmental flows weren't there. So probably irrigators, we took more than we should have. So there was an adjustment needed. And we've done that adjustment. But when you add the 450 gigs that they want from us, that's going over and above. And it's probably another 1,000 gigs that are going now into South Australia that was never really part of the plan. And we're not getting credit for that. So yes, the outcome is good when it's environmental flows. And this idea that water, somehow we've separated. It's the same bucket of water, isn't it? Yeah. It's environmental, community, and for irrigators. So what we've got to make sure is you get the outcomes. But what's happened now is we've given so much, we've got nothing left to give, and they want more. And that's bullshit. We just don't have it. Yes, the outcomes. I think the environment is the winner at the moment, but we're flooding forests. Yeah. We're still flooding some of the banks because we haven't got the system right. But yet we've got irrigators who miss out completely. They're watching that water go past their front gate. Man, how heartbreaking is that? Where you're told as an irrigator, you can't touch the water, but you're seeing the water come down, and then it floods further down river, and then it goes to South Australia. So this is a flaw in the system, but I reckon we've done our fair share in this. So,
what would you say? Have you've been out to Burke recently? You stand out there where the steam paddle boats used to pull up. They haven't been there in a while,
mate.
They haven't been at that level in a while. What do you think that comes down to?
Look. So you can start blaming irrigators, and that's what everybody wants to blame an irrigator upstream. And look, there are probably some issues. I'm not going to deny it, and ANRA is looking at all of that, and we're looking at a couple of irrigators and dealing with that. But when the river system in New South Wales has only received 1.5% of inflows for 2 years in a row, you can blame everyone else, but you've got to blame Mother Nature at some point, and that's the problem. That steamboat or the old paddle boat there, it was about 1 metre deep in the soil of that riverbank, and I reckon when that water comes, that's not coming out. I reckon they're going to have to crane the bastard out. Otherwise, they're just going to flood. It's going to become the Titanic. They might get a great tourist attraction out of it. People can start diving, but mate, it's a tragedy. But when those floods in North Queensland came about, that water flowed through the river system. They got a little bit down there, was able to shift it a little bit. But I don't know. Is this the norm? Is this going to be the new norm?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of when you're having a look at what's happened and what's happening now, we're entering a period now where this hasn't happened before. Really,
are you saying climate change, mate?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Climate change.
Yeah.
You've said that before.
Absolutely. Climate change. We live it every day.
Yep.
Those that live in the bush live this each and every day. The question mark will be how much impact by man, but climate change is real. We'll get more extreme, longer, dry periods.
Yeah.
But when it rains, it'll be bloody intense, and we'll get the flood. So we've got to store it. But yeah, I think the way we manage water, the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, what we do with environmental water, what we do with water for irrigators. I don't know who decided in a dry continent like Australia that rice or cotton was what we should be growing, and that's a question mark.
That is a question mark.
There is a question mark there.
Yeah. How do you go speaking to your
constituency,
Italian countrymen out there? Down there
no. Let's just grow grapes, mate. Come on. When I'm in the Riverina, I'll tell you a story. I'm down in the Riverina. John Delbroy's the mayor of Griffith, good Italian man, and he invited Melinda Pavey, who's the water minister, and myself out to his farm. He said, "I got a few guys together at the shed. We're going to have just a little chat about water," because Melinda was just appointed a new minister. I thought, great, let's get out there. I've known John for a while. He promised me homemade salami, so mate, I was out there, mate. Yep. You don't get to my sort of fitness without eating homemade salami, but and homemade wine. Got there was about 150 people at this shed. So I said, Melinda, there's two outcomes here for us. We're going to get buried out in the vineyard. Yeah. If you say anything wrong, we survive and get to eat salami, or we become the salami and the sausages. And so Melinda Pavey gets up and says to this crowd, "Yes, we know water's tight in this and that." She goes, "But everyone blames the cotton farmers and the rice farmers, but grapes take a lot of water." And I looked at her and I said, "We're in a room with 150 Italian grape growers, and you're blaming them now for using too much." Man, I'm pulling on the bloody jacket. The thing is, she said it twice. So I thought we were going to end up like Donald Mackay, buried in a paddock somewhere, but we got away with it. But look, let's be honest. Do we have to question what we're growing and where we're growing? I think we do, don't we? And we've got to be serious. And this is not having a dig at who we are and what we are, but seriously, I just don't understand. And the other thing with what we're doing, have a look at all the permanent plantations now we're building. So forget the the cotton farmers or the rice growers. The reality is that we've got almond trees going in. We've got a whole heap of nuts going in across the river system. They're permanent plantings. They're going to need high security or guaranteed water. How have we made these decisions? Because we're talking about we can't even meet the needs today. How are we going to meet the needs of permanent plantings going forward? In my mind, I think these businesses have taken so much risk, they're all going to fail. There's just no way.
Your comments you're making right now would make you rather unpopular at Yamba around Christmas time, I reckon. The cotton farmers particularly, and now this new wave of kind of doing kind of grain and legumes, they don't like being told that they should be kind of in any way accountable. And
I've always avoided blaming irrigators, right?
Yeah.
I've always avoided it. And, last week, the dickhead mayor from Dubbo, because Dubbo is just about to go into stage 3 or stage 4 water restriction. They're going to run out of water by March. We've given them $30 million. He came out and said, stop the water to the irrigators. Well, the irrigators haven't had water for so long because of the dry spell. So he got it wrong. So I actually defend our irrigators. My fear is, part of the Murray-Darling Basin plan is we're buying back all these licences. And everyone goes, well, that's great. You're buying back these licences. These guys want to give up their licence. But what you're actually doing, you're destroying an industry in certain parts of the state, which means those jobs are gone. And when those jobs are gone, families move out, which means the local school closes. Yeah. The doctor leaves the local bloody hospital. So there's a bigger picture here. So I don't blame irrigators. Yeah. But I think as an educated society, we probably have to revisit what we grow and where. There's no problem with that, and maybe help farmers transition from one crop to another.
Yeah, the Nat's in the business of helping farmers and producers in upskilling or changing the way they were, because we've seen, say, the wool crash, for example. A lot of people then had to teach themselves how to push cattle and change what they were doing.
Yeah, so we have a number of programs to reskill, upskill, change skills for mature age employees, etc. But we're also helping the skills in certain industries. So the cotton industry, for instance, we still believe cotton and grain has a strong industry. There will always be an industry in Australia. And I was a schools minister a number of years ago, and we partnered with them. I think it's about a $12 million partnership about looking at better ways to manage your crops, especially cotton. So, with drone technology, everything else. So we put this funding package together to upskill those workers in that sector so they can use technology different. Those skills and skill sets, they can take anywhere else. If, let's say, the cotton industry was to stop tomorrow. So, we're doing a lot of that, and it's something we have to continue to do, because we want bloody good jobs in the bush. Yeah. We don't want, this idea, we get crappy little jobs in the bush. No, we want high value, good
No more rabbit-proof fences or NBN contractors. You want actual long-term.
Long-term, real jobs. Yeah. Mate, and that's why you get great cities like, I call them cities, right? Like Orange is a city, a regional city, mate. When you got a whiskey bar there called Washington & Co., mate, it's a city.
It's pretty fast, actually. If someone had told you that 10 years ago, that Orange was going to be a little weekender.
Great accommodation. Honestly, I don't know if you've been to Washington Co., little whiskey bar in Orange. Mate, you can stick that in Surrey Hills. You can stick that in New York. Yeah. Honestly, it's a trendy little bloody bar. And, the guy on a guitar in the corner, some of the best whiskey in the world, at $25-$30 a whiskey, and yet it survives in a place like Orange.
Yeah.
Mate, it just shows you, these are cosmopolitan cities in the bush. And we've got to start talking it up. This term I hate, it's a wanker term, bush change. Bullshit, it's a city change. You want to leave Sydney? Go to another city called Orange, or Dubbo, or Tamworth, or Wagga Wagga.
Yeah.
Don't call it a bush change, because it's not. It's a city change.
And we were actually at the Grains Conference this year, Summer Grains Conference up in
Gold
Coast. And every one of those blokes
was... conference in the Gold Coast.
Yeah,
convenient. Conference
convenient.
They have
I've
got to be careful. The last conference I went on the Gold Coast, I got in a bit of a biff with my good friend, federal colleague up there from the Nats. We resolved all that, so that's all good.
It's funny how these agribusiness kind of conferences all tend to be within walking distance of Jupiter's and
strip club. Actually, you just say it. Be upfront about it. Now, I'm not going to ask you what you guys got up to, but anyway, you went to the Grain Conference.
No, but all these blokes are walking out every kind of presentation and every kind of seminar, and they're all checking their tablets really and checking. They've got the drones. They're looking. They're farming while they're on the job. Yeah, they're farming while they're in the strip club.
I was going to say something to make it rain, but I'm not going to say that, right? But you're right. And technology is going to change the way we produce food and fibre. The Feds have funded a program. I think it's about $10 million. There's a company out of Tamworth. They're building these big trailers. They're technically mobile little farms, but connected to technology. and they'll be in the schools. I think they're doing 70 schools or something at the moment. That's what they're funded for. And what these kids will be able to do off their app is control the water, the fertiliser, all the proteins, whatever you need to put into and they'll be able to manage it all and see what grows, what doesn't grow. So, mate, the more we do that in the school system, teach these kids about the technology behind agriculture, we're not going to be this bloody redneck industry. You know, everyone, if you talk about the bush, everyone thinks bloody, you know, tumbleweeds and windmills. The agriculture sector are the best innovators. You know why? They've had to. And Australian bloody farmers are the best in the world. Why? We don't have tariffs for protection. We don't have subsidies to support them. So they are raw, honest, efficient innovators in their industry, and that's why they can compete globally. And we've got to encourage more of that.
Just one more question before we let you go, John. It's a question about carbon. It's been common knowledge for a long time that the price of energy out in the bush is very expensive. And moving forward, there is a push to move away from coal. Out in the bush, there's a whole smorgasbord of energy options which are more renewable. What do you think's the best ticket moving forward?
Nuclear energy.
Nuclear?
I'm telling you, mate, guys, if you want to decarbonise the environment and you want baseload power, look, I'm a supporter of renewables. You can have wind, you can have bloody solar, you can have hydro, but we're not going to have baseload, right? And coal, we're going to get to the end of it. There's still 50 years of coal, but we'll get to the end of it. Nuclear energy, uranium. We've got 44% of the globe's uranium stockpile here in Australia. So we've got the largest stockpile in the world. We already export the second largest exporter of uranium. We bring back waste. We've got a nuclear reactor up the road here at Lucas Heights for nuclear medicine, but we don't use it for energy. So to me, that's dumb. Actually, funny enough, tomorrow I'm actually speaking at a nuclear conference here in Sydney. I spoke in Atlanta, Georgia a couple of years ago. Small modular reactors. They're not like Chernobyl. Like
I was just about to ask that, and I had to ask that. You didn't tune into that HBO series that came out a bit earlier?
But Chernobyl, that series is the reason why we should get into it. We've got stable geology, stable government. We've got the rich resource. We can have a waste facility here that'll be worth hundreds of billions of dollars in collecting waste, and we can build small modular reactors. NuScale is a company out of the US who's in town at the moment, who I've met up with in the past, who really would love to build an industry here. And we can do it all, and it's affordable. You decarbonise, you can shut off coal tomorrow. And I'm the resource minister, so when I say shut down coal, I'll only say it if you replace it with something that gives you baseload. Small modular reactors, and you know the waste. Like people don't know this. The waste in France, you know where they bury it?
Where?
The Champagne region. That's probably why you get the extra bubble in your champagne. But because they
that's what sends you mad after a couple.
But they're confident. They're confident with it. And as a nation, we've got to stop. You guys are young enough, mate. You look at the technology, look at your mobile phone. That's changed from 20, 30 years ago. You know, Chernobyl's what, 70-year-old bloody technology. Fukushima is still 30-year-old technology. 3 Mile Island, the same story.
What about
modular reactors?
What about the 2016 census? What kind of technology were they using there?
Oh, God knows. But so technology can let you down. So what you're trying to tell me, technology can let you down. But small modular reactors, they're built in a factory, delivered to site. They don't have to be near water supply. They can be air-cooled, sand-cooled. Stick it on the grid, 50 megawatts at a time. You can link 12 of them together up to 600 megawatts. Get online, have a look at it, and you'll actually be surprised what the technology looks like. And as Australia, if you get the energy mix right, and we bring downward prices, get base load, we'll become a manufacturing nation. No, I'm not talking about building bloody toasters and washing machines. We'll leave that to our friends across the borders, our close neighbours. But it's advanced manufacturing, and that's what we should be focused on. Wages aren't the issue anymore because our wages compared to the globe in this space are almost the same. It's just energy that's bloody killing us at the moment, and that's because politicians for far too long have let ideology get in the way of common sense. And you know, I speak about this I go to a place like Barilaro, and you talk nuclear energy, and they want to bloody. They'll come out with the pitchforks.
They come out with the vaccinations.
They do. But when I leave a room and they start to hear it, most would say, 80-90% would say, actually I'm going to have a look at this.
Think it through and look it up. Just one last question, yes, no. High-speed rail.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we shouldn't have bothered about the NBN, mate. We should have stuck that $70 billion in high-speed rail.
High-speed rail to Orange?
Mate, well, you know, funny enough,
Canberra to Brisbane?
I reckon you've got, you want to do the connections. You do Canberra to Sydney, Sydney to Newcastle, then you take it up to, you take it to Brisbane, and then you connect down to Melbourne. Yeah. If you did that, you know, we've all travelled, mate. You get into China or Japan, you go to Europe, you get on very fast rail, and you realise all of a sudden it's fine. If you want to, the one policy that'll fix regional New South Wales, when I say fix, in relation to growth, because you don't get lots of growth. Over the next 10, 15 years, you'll see another 1 million people here in Sydney, and we'll probably see about a couple of 100,000 in the bush.
Yeah.
You want to decentralise, make it easier to get in and out of Sydney, and if you can live in Orange but be in town here in 50 minutes. Mate, who's going to live in Sydney? Why would you live in this shithole?
Yeah.
Have the country lifestyle, city benefits, live in the bush.
Beauty. Thanks for joining us, Barrett.
Thank you, Sean.
No worries, guys. Thank you.